All right, we're live. I think. Should be.
We live?
Yeah.
And now, coming in at 6'3.5". What's up, brother?
Not much, man. I'm kind of gonna be sad when we no longer do this a little bit. I mean, I'm gonna be super pumped that we're back in bars, but I've been enjoying this.
Yeah, we'll find a way to integrate it. So let's say hello to our fans. I'm sure we have hundreds of people tuning in right now.
We have a whole 2. There's
nice.
Yeah, 2.
That's what I'm talking
about. What's up, Beam Me Up? So I got my drink. I'm sure Kristian's got his water. Are you still on your 75-day thing?
Yes, sir.
Nice. How many more days you got of that?
So the thing with the 75 hard is it's all or nothing. So if you slip on any of it, you got to start over,
right?
I did slip once. I made it to day 30, had to start over. So I'm at day.
Oh, damn.
I'm at day like 10.
That sucks. That sucks.
And it's not even like it was something big that I slipped on. I just made a calculation error with my macros. It was like I didn't put. So you have to. Part of the 75 hard is you actually have to stick to a diet or nutrition plan. So I chose to do macros, which you could do whatever you want.
Right.
So I did macros, and I didn't calculate. I made this like Puerto Rican dish called totones, and I did not calculate the oil, like 3 tablespoons of oil.
That's a no-no?
Well, it put me over 300 calories. So like I didn't put it in. So I went the whole day, like thought I had the right amount of calories. And then the next day I realized I didn't put that in. So it put me 300 calories over.
Oh, shit. That sucks.
So crap. But I'm back at it. I'm worn, man. I'm going to be honest. After doing the 100 sweaty days and then going right into this, the past couple of days, my body has been worn.
I bet. I don't envy you, honestly, really at all. Well, I'm pretty pumped to be talking about today's topic because it has to do with me. And no, in all seriousness, about what you've been doing with, the stock trading and being involved in my mentorship a little bit more. Now that you've been stuck at home, you've been having some time to get completely focused on it, which is interesting because you've had a pretty good understanding of how the stock market works and how to invest and all that good stuff and day trading, but you never really dove into it like you have in the last 8 weeks. So it's been pretty cool to see you develop as fast as you have.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I feel the same way. So today the sort of the macro view will be talking about side hustle. And I think this is a great time because people are having to try to find new opportunities, and with an unemployment so high and just the gig economy, like side hustles are getting really popular. So we can have that conversation. I'm super pumped about it. First, sort of, for anybody that's going to be watching this that's not familiar with it, welcome to the Barcast. I'm Kristian, Cash here. Brad's my co-host. So with the Barcast, what we really try to do is we try to peel back the curtain on entrepreneurship, and we talk about the experiences that we have through our respective businesses. Brad and I each have our own businesses. We also work on a partner in a company together called We Trade HQ with his co-founder Jake. So we've got all this entrepreneurship, and we really wanted to leverage the Barcast as an opportunity for us to, really show the other side of entrepreneurship, because, like I say, it can be lonely. I think everybody sees the glamour. So we want to really track our journey. So it's been fun thus far.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking a lead on that. Since I kind of dropped the ball, that's usually my thing. But yeah, no, guys. In all seriousness, appreciate you showing up and hanging out with us, um, and just kind of getting into it. So, definitely want to get into talking about the trading side of things. But you know, how's before we get into that, how's business going with you, especially as far as like not being able to really come out of your house, and the most of your businesses as far as outside of We Trade HQ is hospitality. So I mean that's been pretty tough.
Yeah, it was scary thinking about how this would impact me. Fortunately, I've made it through. I mean, knock on wood, I think we're getting to the end of the quarantine. Um, but it was a struggle at the beginning. I tried not to think negatively, but part of me was fearful that I'd lose all my clients. um,
Yeah.
Felt sorry for myself for about a week. And then really the turning point for me was I just realized, like, listen, this is out of my control. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It's the advice I give a lot of my clients, which is don't create a problem until the problem exists, right? So
Right.
I was creating this problem and I was stressing over a problem that hadn't even happened. And so I had this sort of moment where I I felt done with feeling sorry for myself. And what I wanted to try to do was really shift and just keep myself busy. So I went on Instagram, basically offered my services pro bono while the quarantine was going on. So what I said was, as long as I'm home, as long as I have free hours, you can jump on my schedule and I'll coach for free. That was really cool because there's a few businesses that took me up on it, and I've actually um, feel like I've helped move businesses forward. And I was really adamant about not taking money. If somebody wanted to pay me, they could just donate it.
Yeah.
There was some hospitality funds that donated,
That's
but
awesome.
it wasn't. I did not want to do it as a form of like trying to get business or generate revenue.
Yeah.
And that was a huge turning point for me because I stopped making it about myself and started trying to play my role in helping. And that was when it all changed. And right after that, my mindset started shifting, and I'm like, okay, well then what can I do with this free time? And that's what segued into really picking back up day trading, because I had started when I first started working with We Trade HQ about a year ago,
Hmm.
and it just kind of it wasn't that I wanted to day trade. I just wanted to understand the business.
Right.
So I started an account and just wanted to get a level understanding. And then once I felt like I had that, it just kind of like fell off and whatever. So I wanted to pick that back up.
Well, I mean, and now's been the perfect time to do that, right? I mean, and I think that we've seen kind of some of the benefits of people being able to stay at home because we've seen an increase in business, and
Yeah.
people are more able to focus more on trading during market hours because they're at home when they would normally be at work. So that's been fun for us. Um, but more importantly, like I'm excited for you because therefore, there in the beginning, you lost what? Probably and you can correct me if I'm wrong, around $4,000, and then you've kind of clawed your way back and actually started to really get consistent, and now have made $6,000 since then, right?
I'm not sure those are my numbers.
All right. Well, I thought you were down. I thought you were down four, and then made six back. But
Like when I started, like this time around.
yeah, like you'd started down and then came back.
Yeah, so I started actually, funny enough, my account's open. I didn't have that. I can tell you exactly what it was. So I immediately had a little bit of a pop. So like my first day, actually it was my first day, was really good. And then I lost about 1,500.
Okay.
And then from there, I had I know what you're thinking of. Yeah, so I was never down more than 1,500, but it was kind of choppy
Oh,
where
okay.
I would go up and down. So that was about the first week that had happened. And then so I started on March 13th was the first trading day, and then April 3rd. So that was, I guess, 2 weeks. April 3rd from there has been up. So that was the turning point for me. It was like that April 4th where I started going in the right direction. Um, but yeah, man, and you and I though, like, so how it started was I was starting to do the mentorship and I was getting into it, but I think it was right around that April mark was when I actually asked you to work with me one-on-one. And that's really
Yeah.
made all the difference.
Yeah.
The mentorship's great. Um, and you can be successful with the mentorship if you can be disciplined. And correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, but you can be successful. But it's there's something about creating the strategy for yourself and learning how to build it.
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoy is building it and going through that education process. And when I started, I didn't have any expectations as far as how much money I wanted to make. I just didn't want to lose all my money.
Right.
And so I've actually so the low end, I mean, just I hate when people don't give numbers. So, it might sound weird for me to give them, but I want to give numbers. So since I've then started from that point, April 3rd, when I told you there was a shift, I'm up. Yeah. So I'm up $6,000.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's a month.
Yeah.
From that point was a month. Um, I've benefited. I feel like I've benefited a little bit on just naturally the market's on an uptrend. But I have to attribute it to like the work we're doing, you and I, like where it's just I'm refining my strategy. I'm I'm able to wrap my head around it. I understood theoretically some things, but I almost feel like you and I haven't talked about this, but the past few days I've actually felt like I'm looking at the chart as a language and I'm learning how to speak the language.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. I think that's definitely part of it, but I think the other part for you too is just you have had a knack for just being able to accept what you've been given instead of holding on to things. So like one of the biggest struggles that new traders and new investors have is just that they just feel as if whatever they have a hold of is just going to keep going up and up and up and up forever, instead of just taking money off the table and then going back and buying something cheaper or whatever, waiting for it to dip back down or whatever. And you've been able to play a lot of that almost flawlessly. I mean, and you definitely had red trades along the way, but it's definitely been a really nice incline, and it's been pretty awesome to see. And I wonder if, and you can tell me or tell the audience, like, what is it that has been the factor for you for being able to just sell it and be okay with it, even if it runs without you? Because I think that's like one of the hardest things for people to wrap their heads around.
Yeah, it's before the emotion, before anything starts, I decided I predetermined what my plan was. And everybody says they have a plan, but like, do they have a concrete plan as far as an exit strategy and exit on the low end, which you talk about a lot. And I try to impress this as much as possible, which is like, it's more minimizing the losses. So when am I going to cut bait?
Right.
So understanding what my entries and my exits are, and then sticking to it. I think that is just being able to remove that emotion and just say, you know what? I said, I'm going to do this. Let me do this. And then knowing that that's going to be a challenge. So going into it, knowing like you're going to want to hang on to it, but be more proud that you had the discipline rather than more proud to say, or rather than try to say, oh, I had this winner or whatever. And I've learned this through your mentorship where I've seen enough people who have, like you said, had the FOMO and like they just want to see it run. That was a difference maker. And I would go back to when I did the penny stocks last year, because I was trading more of the penny stocks. When we were talking, I didn't really have my own strategy. You had said some things in your course, but you were saying it more generalized.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this, but when I was doing penny stocks, I was actually trying to exit out to get free shares. So I was looking for 100% wins. And you had told me one time, like, and I thought that's what you did with penny stocks. It wasn't that I was trying to be greedy. It was I was always trying to get 100%, and it never got there.
Right.
And then you got to a point where you're like, lock in some profit. So it would be like 25%. And penny stocks are obviously very different. Um, but it was that idea of, all right, I'm going to lock in something and just have those incremental wins.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way to put it. I mean, and I would say that, it's one of these things where, I don't know, it's not just about, yes, you sell here, or no, no, you don't. It's definitely the mental game. And I think, you kind of had that self-discipline from the start. And I think that's probably what's giving you a little bit of an edge, because, if you have a gambler's mentality, you're gonna get burned very quickly. Whereas, I think that you've been able to understand, pretty fast, that you just got to be able to take the money when it's given to you. Because sometimes, and I'll even say this to a lot of folks that I run into, or even the mentorship folks, it's like, I'm gonna take my profit here, and if it runs without me, so be it. Or sometimes I'll leave a little bit of shares on the table just to see where it goes, and then if it comes back down, fine. But like, that's just like one of the biggest struggles. I think if there was a number one struggle that people have, it's just taking money off the table. And it's crazy because I've had people that have been up $10,000, $20,000 before, and they won't sell, and then they eventually end up selling for a loss because they couldn't bring themselves to do it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, so a couple of things I want to mention. One is, I mean, I've gambled for fun. I enjoy going to the casinos. Haven't done
Yeah.
it in a while, but I've done, poker, blackjack, whatever, craps. Um, and gambling my whole life actually helped me with this, because it's a common thing with gambling. Like, how many stories do you hear about people when they go to the casino and they come back and you're like, hey, how'd you do? And you're like, well, I was up.
Yeah.
Dot, dot, dot. Well, okay, but like, how much did you come home with? Oh, I lost $150, but I was up $500.
Right.
Right. And I've seen it, and I've done it. I've been victim of that. And I've seen it enough time to know that, um, it's not about the greed, it's about chipping away. So that resonated with me. Um, Drawing those correlations was really helpful. The other thing was, um, one of the first things we did when we talked, we almost began with the end in mind. Like, so where do I want to go? Right. Like, I have a really clear plan on what I want to do. And so, um, what I'm trying to do is I'm using, what I have is like it's called a solo 401k.
Yeah.
And it's for my company, and it allows me, and I honestly, I should put the disclaimer, I would not recommend anybody to try to learn day trading with their 401k. But for me, it was my rollover, and I felt comfortable enough I had dabbled in the market, and I felt comfortable enough in myself to take the chance. And it was money that, like, it was a rollover, so I kind of considered it free money.
Yeah.
But the beauty of the solo 401k is it's an entrepreneur's loan, it's a business owner's loan, so you can pull out up to half of it. So for PDT is what, 25,000?
Yeah.
So that account had like 27,000 in it. So my goal is to get it to 50K, pull out 25. And at that point, when I do that, I will consider myself officially a trader, like where I can say I can do this. Because that will all be profit that I've earned.
Yeah.
And so until that point, to me, I'm learning. And then I want to pull it out, and I want to actually trade with it. And I'll have 5 years to pay it back. So I'll use 5 years to pay that back into my 401k. So I started there, and then you just break down how you do that. And so we started looking at, like, okay, how can we really do it? And for me, my goal is 3% a week. And when I'm in a day, I would love to make 1% a day, but on the bottom end is a 0.5%. And so that's what's really important for me, is like,
You mean your
if I
take
can
loss?
know that on my winning days, on my green days, I'll get 1%, and on my losing days, it'll be no more than 0.5%. Then I should end up in the green at the end of the day. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin too, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that'll be like in a losing trade, and instead of just getting out before it gets worse, they just stay in, thinking that at some point, it's going to turn around, and so that's the other end of the spectrum there for sure. And yeah, that's definitely something that, again, I feel like you've been able to just understand and be like, hey, you know what? If I make a bad trade and make a bad trade, I'll just get the next one.
Yeah. To be honest, though, I haven't been perfect with that. I mean, that's that. If you would say what's the one thing that you really need to work on moving forward, is sticking to that,
Yeah.
sticking to the losses and the tight stops, um, and also being okay with the red days, which I've gotten more comfortable with that. But yeah, I mean, I haven't had problems stopping out, and I mean, it's so simple, but the biggest thing has been stop losses and moving up my stop losses. And that's how I've removed the emotion. Is I just know, you know, in my trades, I want that 1%, 5%, 1% negative 0.5%. So like if I keep those in my trades, then for the day, I should keep that 1% average. And so if I'm doing that, then I I should be okay. So like when I clear that 1%, I'm pretty systematic in, okay, if I clear that 1%, typically for most stocks, I'll do like zero point 0.5,
Right.
and then I'll just start moving it up, moving it up. And I love that part of it. And that's one where I've been surprisingly okay with stopping out of, all these stocks and just locking in those profits. That's, to me, that's been the difference for me, is understanding stop losses and moving up stop losses. It sounds so stupid, but I didn't know how to do it like a
Right.
stock market or any. And to be honest, I still don't totally know how it all works as far as like submitting trade orders. And that's what I was talking about. Like I could just go in on a market order, but there's all these other options you have. Conditional orders we learned about. So those are just like tools in your tool belt.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, and sometimes I forget to kind of go back to basics, because if I think about when I first started trading, I didn't know how to do any of that stuff either. And so sometimes I kind of get lost in that. Like, you know, there's something to be said to just teaching somebody just how to place an order. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many people that just first get into it and they don't even know how to buy a stock, which is crazy. Which is even crazier because when you get into something like a Robinhood type app, they actually make it super simple to make an order, but
Yeah.
it's almost so simple that that's what people get. That's how people get in trouble. Um,
Yes.
and there's something to be said for something being too easy to just kind of blow your money essentially. Um, but no, I'm really happy to hear that. Like everything just seems to be clicking for you. It's pretty cool to see, I gotta say.
Yeah, and it's cool to be a part of the community. I mean, it's enabled me to get the student perspective and our customer perspective, and really show that and understand the value that we're bringing. Um, and I'd like to be more and more involved in the community. Like today, I was involved in the Discord a little bit more. So
Yeah.
for people, like I guess I should probably explain a little bit about how the mentorship works. Um, so when you sign up for We Trade HQ, it has a bunch of resources, free resources for trading. So you can have charts. We have blogs, articles, guides, all that stuff.
Yep.
But then there's paid services. So you have a course, a mentorship, and then we have other mentors that have courses and mentorship. So I do your mentorship, which is you go live every day, Monday through Friday from 9 to 10.
Yep.
Um, when you join the mentorship, we have a private group with our members. And so there's like this cool little community, and you start recognizing names and you start seeing the same people. Um, and that's the best part, the community.
Yeah.
You're not doing this alone, and everybody wins. People, we often win together, especially this week. You've been killing it on your call outs. And so it allows me to really feel that sense of community, because I've been on the outside looking in, and to be a part of it
Yeah.
um, has been awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate that. And from a business perspective, that's just my favorite part, like being able to connect with people in whatever it is that I do, it wouldn't even have to be stock trading. It could be, I don't know, sports, whatever. Like just being able to connect with people. I've always been that people person. And sometimes it does drive me crazy because I feel like I'm looking at the same four walls all the time. But the fact that I could connect with these people um, makes it really fun. And that just kind of goes along with what our visions have always been for business, and that's just been competing on relationships and just being able to have these connections with folks in the group has been really, really awesome. And that's why, like, I mean, we always talk about how entrepreneurship's a pretty lonely road. So is day trading. Like, if you try to take day trading on by yourself, it's really, really lonely. So being in a community definitely adds something to that. But yeah, it really is a lot of fun. And I mean, that's probably why one of my favorite times of the week is Stock Watch Sunday, just because I get to be able to actually interact with my my community on YouTube, which if you guys don't know, Stock Watch Sunday is something where I go live every once a week on YouTube and just kind of go over the stocks that I'm watching. But everybody gets to kind of hop on and call in and connect, and it's a lot of fun.
I did have a question for you. I was thinking about it today. Do you so you had a mentor who taught you, and you learned from him. And I know you've kind of spoken to me about sort of how he taught you, where he gave you a little bit of guidance, but you also had to figure a lot of stuff out on your own.
Yeah.
How would you say your strategy changed from how has it evolved, or has anything evolved in your strategy from what you learned from him to then now what's uniquely yours?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. When I first started learning the stock market, I tried to self-learn on my own, doing a lot of things here and there, until I was finally able to connect with him. His name is Michael, and he trades over-the-counter penny stocks. He's been doing it for almost 30 years, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, basically, what would happen was like, hey, I'm entering on this or that, and then basically all I would have to do, or I could make a decision as to whether or not I wanted to get in, and after that point, I was on my own. So then he was basically feeding me these stocks, and then left it to me to determine whether or not I was going to stay in, if I was going to cut losses, or if I was going to stay long, or when I was actually going to take profit. So all of that I had to learn on my own. And so it was interesting, because there was so many of them where he would, and the crazy part is that most people, and including him, he's about 50% accurate on a winning trade versus a losing trade. The biggest difference is that how much you're actually taking as a loss versus how much you're taking as a win. And so lots of times I would, if he's in something, there's a 50% chance it's going to be red or green. And for him, lots of times he would take, 5-figure position sizes and still be able to take a loss of, $10-12 on certain things, or a couple $100 here or there. And me, I ended up blowing my account up twice. Just doing the typical beginner thing, just holding into it forever, thinking that it's going to turn around, or some other thing like that. But as far as evolving, and finally learning how to take profit and how to, take a loss and that sort of thing, I really started to get into the larger cap type stocks, and it's been. I think that I wouldn't be able to be as successful as I am with the larger cap stocks if I didn't go through that process with the OTCs. And I still trade over the counter penny stocks here and there. I still have a few positions here and there whenever I see value in something that seems pretty attractive. But for the most part, I've been able to carry a lot of things that I've learned from the penny stock world to larger caps, which is probably, I wouldn't say it's unusual, but probably, something like on the surface you wouldn't imagine would happen, because like it's a whole different world. It's completely different. But I think the principles of just being able to take the profit when it's given to you, and being able to be okay with just being wrong, is one of those things that you can just carry over to just about any type of trading. And so I tell people all the time, I have to tell myself that I'm wrong almost every day. I have to be out of a trade. I have to take a small loss every day almost. The important thing is that you're green on the day, or maybe even if you have a red day, you have a green week. That's definitely important too. But getting into the strategy part of it, I think that what I've been able to make my own is just that large cap day trading thing where I can see something, I can identify where, a dip is going to basically stop and maybe come back up, or where I can identify there's going to be a good short somewhere, and be able to say, okay, here's the setup. This is my plan before I even push the buy or short button. I'm going to do this. And then as long as I stick to this plan, then I'm fine. You start to really get yourself in trouble when you start to deviate from that. And I've fallen victim to that before too. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's where I would say I've really started to come into my own, is just like with the large cap stuff. And I really love looking into the fundamentals. I really love looking at like earnings reports and being able to determine whether or not I think that something's going to be able to, crush earnings and that sort of thing. I mean, this week's been fantastic. I mean, crushed it with Peloton and BYND and Activision and all kinds of other ones. But it's been a lot of fun being able to just get into that side of things for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what? I think this would be kind of cool to show and to articulate the point. I'm going to share my screen. This might be cool.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll interest people. So it's well, we talked about the wins and the losses, but I was looking at my cost basis, and check this out. So these are all my trades this year, all collectively. So it says $453,000. I don't have that much money. It's in and out.
Yeah.
So if you look at the dollar amount, these are the positions that I've been red.
Right.
I've been more green overall. But the interesting thing is, take out Bank of America, because that was that first dip day before I started. I lost 6%, and then CGC 4%. Look at all the other ones. Look at all the other reds.
Yep.
0.5%, 1.8, 0.9, 1.5, 0.3, right? And so I don't have any big losses. But to your point, again, if we sort this, it's sorry, let's bump it up a little bit. If we sort this, we got these that are 4, 5, 6. I'm not taking a 10% loss.
Yeah, 10% on Amazon. That's awesome.
And so, yeah, and so that's the other cool thing is like, there's a little bit more green than red in general, but you're not seeing that 15% red or whatever.
Right.
And I found that recently. So I've been like kind of using that to like reiterate my confidence and like reinforce what I'm trying to do. Yeah, but that's super helpful as well, as I'm learning more of so I use TD Ameritrade. I don't actually use Thinkorswim, which I know a lot of people who use that. I just do it right through TD Ameritrade, and then I use TradingView for the charts.
Yeah.
But I like sort of the resources they have as I learn more and more about them.
Oh yeah. I mean, shoot, man, that's a whole other conversation as far as brokerages are concerned. I mean, everybody has their own preference, I think. But yeah, I mean, I use Thinkorswim and I love it. But I think the more that you dive into it, the more you're going to be like, all right, now it's time for me to step up, take the training wheels off, and see what I can do with this. But I think that, given this foundation you have, it's definitely going to be a really interesting transition when you start to kind of like add more stuff, or maybe leverage more. So, and that's kind of where I wanted to talk to next, because you've talked about where your goal is going to be. So what's next for you as far as like, once you reach that goal, are you going to start increasing your position sizes and keeping the risk the same? Like, what's your plan once you reach that goal?
I'll probably sit down with you and we'll talk about it.
I thought that was going to be your answer, but
I haven't thought beyond that. But if I would sort of take a stab at it, I would hope that I would use the same strategy, because I got to start all over again. and grow it back. So remember, if I'm starting back at 25K, I've actually, so you probably, I don't even think I've told you this, but I've actually, my starter positions, I've actually made smaller recently. So I was using, so for me, what I'll try to do is I'll go in your mentorship in the morning. I'll hear the stuff you're talking about. I'll come in with a few things that I'm thinking about, and I may ask you to check it out for me.
Yeah.
But then what I'll do is I'll list all the stocks, write everything you're writing, and then while you're doing the mentorship, I'll list what are my top 3 to 5 that I'm going to look at. And my goal, and I'm not always good at this, but my goal is typically to just look at 3 for the day, not get distracted by any others. So for me today was Peloton, which I was already in, AMD, and SPY, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so I just kept kind of going in and out of those positions. But so, anyways, I have sort of 3 to 5 positions, and I'm never, based on my account size right now today, I'm not trying to be in more than a position of $5,000. However, I will sometimes we'll go over that. My max is 10K. So I'll never be over 10K typically.
Yeah.
And if I'm in that high, it's usually in something like SPY or like, something a little bit more conservative.
Less volatile. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so if that's what I'm playing with, if my thought is like, okay, I'm $5,000 position. So essentially I can get 3 to 5 positions a day. I was doing half of that. So I was taking a starter position of $2,500. I've actually backed that up. And now I take a starting position of $1,500. And that's been, for me, it's worked really well, especially as I'm learning when the right times to enter are.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I'm like many new traders, I'm getting in prematurely. And what I think is a move up is not a move up.
Yeah.
So
right.
it usually pushes down further, but I'm close. Like I'm getting close to when the move up's about to happen, but I'm still missing it. And so that smaller starter position is making me feel more comfortable. And instead of doing a half of my position and then the full amount, I'm doing a 1,500, then I'm doing 2,500. And once it's confirmed, I'm doing my whole position if I get there.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's another common, issue that newer traders run into is that they just try to either throw their whole account into something or take too large positions. And I think what basically that is, we talked about stop losses and managing your risk that way, but this is also managing your risk. You're not exposing yourself to as much risk, especially if something were to just start tanking or whatever. Even if something starts tanking on a $1,500 position, it's not going to be nearly as impactful as if you had a $5,000 position. So, I think that's another really good key piece of advice is just, if you are newer or if maybe you're having some trouble getting it, just taking those smaller position sizes is definitely something, a way that you can minimize the risk and really kind of, hone it in. And once you start to get consistent, then you can start to increase those position sizes a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm a numbers guy, and so I'm numbers, I'm black and white. So if I didn't have a framework and I was left to my own devices, I'd be all over the place. And so I can stick to a plan, but so for me, and this will go back to your question, I think I have a pretty solid answer for it. I've kind of split my account into fifths, and what I'll do is I'll continue to split it into fifths. So if I get up to, so now I'm up to 30,000. I'll now take $6,000 positions, and I may increase that starter to 2. So when I get to pulling out that money and starting back at 25, I'm just going to do the same thing. Yeah. I'm going to take $5,000 positions, and I'm going to increase it as my account grows. My positions will grow. Because that's the other thing, which I think I'm really good at, and this is what I would teach somebody, or not teach somebody. I wouldn't teach anybody. What would advice I would give? And I feel confident giving it because I think it's like business.
Right.
People focus too much on the whole numbers. The whole number doesn't matter. the percentage matters. So when you say a $1,500 position, I never look at how much it means. Like today I remember looking at one of my positions and it was down like a percent, but it was like $5 or so. It was like not a lot of money,
Right.
or whatever it was. And so the percent matters, because if you can nail the percent, then as you scale, you'll be good.
Right.
So I really focus on that percent. And if I can do that, then theoretically, as I grow my account, or as I increase my positions and focus on my percentages, then it should organically grow. So my positions are growing, and now it's compounding and using the power of compounding.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way to go about doing it. Keeping it in those increments, in fifths is just going to be, so you're taking 20% of your account value in each position, and it doesn't matter what.
I may never get there.
Right, the max. Right. And I thought that it was important or interesting that you brought up that, like, you're not worried about what the dollar value is on the stock itself, which I think is important too, because there's a lot of people that'll look at something like Tesla and be like, oh, that's too expensive for me. Yeah. Like I can't afford that. And I'm like, well, why can't you? If it moves 10%, it moves 10%. If you're buying something that's moving 10%, that's $14 a share versus something that's moving 10% at $700 a share, like it's still going to move 10%. And so I think, like, if you look at the percentage goals, that's what you should really be focusing on, and not so much the dollar value of that particular stock. Because yeah, you can potentially make a lot more money on something that's cheaper, but because you'll have more shares, but you're exposing yourself to a lot more risk that way too, because it could go the other way, and it could go the other way a lot quicker. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're really picking up some solid stuff, man. And I'm really, I'm really proud of you for the way that you've, really been able to just stick with it and stay focused. I mean, I would say that it's probably one of the fastest people I've been able to see pick it up and really just be disciplined with it.
Thanks, man. Well, it's helpful that I'm watching, like I look at all your videos, and so I'm getting it through osmosis.
Yeah.
And, just being in the mentorship, but, no, I do appreciate it. And the way you break it down is simple, and it's excited me. It's gotten me reinvigorated about the mentorship, like I said, because it's easy to sell something imagine the point. Like, to me, it's not if, it's when. I don't know how long it's going to take, but when I get to a point where I hit my goal, how easy is that for me to sell? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
right.
Everybody who I've talked to, who I've brought up a trading, and they'll ask me about it, because I think secretly everybody. Well, here's the thing: people want a quick buck. That's a reality.
Oh yeah.
And hey, fired up. I'm fired up about this. Everybody's a day trader, and I'm sure you probably experience this way more than I have. But like through Dave Portnoy at Barstool, who's like doing his day trading.
I love watching him though. I mean, he has no idea what he's doing, but it's fun to watch.
This is good and bad, because the market tanked, and like people started like dabbling, and one of the worst things that could have potentially happened was they were able to get in at a low. Like anything, you threw a dart at anything.
Yeah.
In the S&P, you would have made money. And so it gave people kind of this false confidence. And, I've had a couple people kind of ask me, well, like, how do you think, like, they know I'm seeing some success, and they're like, well, I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they realize how much time I am putting in there, not just with you, but like watching other videos, and I'm watching other of our mentors and other mentors on YouTube, that like, I'm watching a lot of stuff, and I'm creating things on my end and looking at charts. Like, I'm spending more time than I even want to on it. But to me, I also had a base level knowledge of, like, I wasn't good at it, but I was investing in the market, and I was making a little bit of money long positions.
Yeah.
But that's just that could have been the worst thing that happened. And I think a lot of people are going to come out of this in a bad spot, because it's giving this false confidence.
Yeah.
you got to put in the work. And I'm not saying I'm even there yet because I'm not there yet. That's like everybody's been a day trader, and I feel like they just want the reward without putting in the effort.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, 100%. And it's wild to me, right? Because the entire market seems to be moving quite well, especially NASDAQ. And then everybody and their mother continues to just buy up airline stocks and cruise stocks. When the rest of the market's just moving, it's like you're missing out on so much other stuff because you're following the crowd and thinking that, you're going to buy on something because it's dropped 90% from where it was at its high. And so like, that to me is, pretty crazy, to think about as well.
I wanted to, the one thing, focusing moving forward, the one thing I really want to figure out, discussing how everybody's moving with the crowd. You and I talked a little bit about, it seems like it's a little too good to be true how it's rebounding, and it seems like everybody's a little bit too comfortable. And my big thing, and I think you've echoed the same sentiments, is like these earnings just came out. That was for Q1. So out of the 3 months, only a half of one of the months is the quarantine actually factored in there. And yes, you could look forward outlook, but that's just a guess.
Yeah.
So I think there's potential that there's going to be a lot of people in trouble a few months down the road when that next round of earnings comes out, and that's going to be the opposite, where everybody's freaking out. And so that's one of the other reasons why I try not to be in many positions at the end of the day. So each day I try to close out many, because I feel like there's going to be one of these days when I wake up and it's just going to be like red all day.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's really a good idea to have liquidity, right now still, even though as things are going up, because to your point, and like I said, we've talked about this, but we're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah.
Oil is going to tank. Oil's been going crazy the last really this past week. It's been going nuts. And I kind of look like an idiot a little bit right now anyway, because I've been talking about how oil is just not going to be something that I would consider investing in. I still believe that the bottom's going to drop out of that soon, because, we're going to reach storage capacity really, really quickly. Even if people start to go back to work within the next couple of weeks, it's still not going to reach enough demand for the storage to not reach capacity. So that's going to be a huge thing for this coming quarter. And to your point, like, we're going to be seeing, earnings numbers that are just going to be absolutely atrocious. And so I'm curious as to how much that's going to matter, moving forward, because, Apple still has all their U.S. stores closed. Starbucks has most of their U.S. stores closed. Like, what is it going to look like for quarter two? And we won't know until probably mid July.
Yeah.
But and once everybody's allowed out, how much is people actually going to go out and participate in public events like they used to, or even just go to the gym? And we talked about this morning with Peloton. Why is Peloton doing so well? Because first of all, nobody can go to the gym, but I think that they're going to continue to do well because nobody wants to go to the gym or will want to go to the gym, even when they are, permitted to. So it's going to be interesting to see how the market unfolds in the summertime. I think that we're going to be due for another pullback. I don't think we return back to those lows that we saw back in end of March. I think we're out of those, out of that woods. But we're definitely not going to continue to just go straight up. I firmly believe that quarter two is going to be a little bit of a reality check for sure.
Yeah, and I know we're sort of coming to the closing time, but in that same vein, one of the things I've wanted to mention to you, in what I think is something I want to learn.
Yeah.
I don't feel confident in shorting. I don't even, again, how to do an order. I know how it works. You're technically selling and then you buy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how to do it. I mean, I guess I hit sell, but I want to learn how to do it and what to look for. And I know that's something that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's something that you've really only been working like the past year or so. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, for I would say a year, I've really started to get into shorting stuff. Because it was just easier to just find a dip and just wait on the dip. But in my hindsight, I'm like, well, I know it. If I know it's going to dip, then why don't I just short it? And so then, that's what kind of sparked me getting into it a little bit more, which is nice because there's been many instances where you could just play both sides of the stock. You can play the downside and then the upside all on the same day, and then you've made money both ways. So, it's been really that's been really interesting. So,
for me, when I'm thinking about July, I want to be prepared to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't want to wait, just sit there on my hands and be like, okay, it's a red day. Because then I'm going to get in trouble and I'm going to get antsy.
Right.
I know what I'm going to do.
You're going to
be like,
force something.
I'm going to convince myself like, okay, this is moving up. And so you just make dumb decisions. But I'd love to add that to the process when I, like, as the next thing is just to like base knowledge of shorting,
right?
Not to get crazy, but like, if that does happen, to be prepared to take advantage of that on both ends.
Yeah, man, I think that's a really good topic for discussion for sure in the future.
Yeah. And when that does happen, I mean, that's going to be, we talked about this a year ago. You remember we were saying like, if we had a shorting mentor, what was that?
I don't know. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what that was.
If we had a shorting mentor, like a shorting mentor will kill it, right? Because everybody's predicting recession.
Oh yeah.
No, overall, it's been fun. It's been good. I will tell you, there is few better feelings than drawing a support line and for something to bounce off a support. Like, that's one of the coolest feelings ever.
When you actually figure it out and then it actually, happens. Yeah, for sure.
Bro, that is like nailing a game-winning three. You're like, did nobody saw that?
I know. It's so funny when you try to talk about it with people who don't understand and they're like, oh, that's nice. And you're like, what are you talking about? But yeah, that's cool, man. So yeah, just to kind of wrap up, I just got to say, like, it's been pretty cool to just kind of watch your journey in such a short period of time. And, I'm really pumped for what's to come. And I hope that people who are watching got something out of today, just from like an emotional, mental standpoint of just like getting yourself mentally prepared to invest and to, even short-term or active day trade. It's definitely 50% of it it's like baseball. 50% of it's the mental game, where the other 50% is actual strategy. So, I always like to reference things to baseball. Baseball's my thing, but
I talk about hitting singles all day. I want to make this last point, and I should have done it at the very beginning, but the true reason why I wanted to do this and sort of the side hustle thing, what the stay at home, the shelter in place has made me realize is that even though I own my own business, I'm at the mercy of my client's business.
Yeah.
And my thought was, if I can learn how to day trade, I'm at the mercy of the market, but I'm in control of learning that.
Yeah.
And I want to do something. And I think it's similar to what you do, because you day trade for a living, but you also have your business. I'd like for day trading to be a revenue driver for me. That way my business, the stakes aren't as high, like if something like this happens. So that's what this pandemic has really opened my eyes to, is like, I got my own business, but I'm not in control of it. I'm still at the mercy of all these other external factors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just piggyback that by saying that, people ask me all the time, well, if you could make a living day trading, why are you doing a business, or why are you doing anything else? And I have a little bit of a different approach as to, like, well, if something happens to me to where I can't work, or if I get in an accident and I can't day trade, who's going to trade for me? Who's going to continue to generate income if all I'm doing is day trading? Nobody. Yeah. So, that's why I have longer term investments that just sit there and work for me. And then I have the business as well. And so I think it's definitely important to just have multiple streams of income, because this is the only stream of income that I have control over, or that I can actually do, or that nobody else can. Whereas everything else is pretty passive for the most part. So that's why that's one of the biggest reasons. And maybe I should, bring that topic up a little bit more often. But no, I when you mentioned it, it just kind of sparked that in me to kind of mention, because there's definitely that side of it too. Is that there's the passive side that's definitely important in case for whatever reason you can't actively create income for yourself for because maybe you just can't.
Well, and what is it? The average millionaire has average of 4 streams of income,
right? 4 or 7, something like that. Yeah.
Like that's the name of the game, is like just creating more opportunities for income. And again, it's not The Richest Man in Babylon is a great, easy read, but it's about that principle. It's not about like striking gold, right? Like it's about a steady stream. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be $500 a month. And if you can replicate that 4 or 5 times, you got a little something going. So yeah, man, we think that's the name of the game. Like that's what we see, and that's what we believe in, and we're trying to work towards. So yeah, I definitely appreciate you. It's been fun. It's been fun to be a part of the community. And like we have all these different communities, but they all are kind of tied together on this foundation of like connectivity and personal relationships. And so, hopefully other people will want to join the community and be a part of the community and come hang with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check us out over at WeTradeHQ.com if you're not over there already. And, again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It's a little bit different than what we normally do. We kind of had to do this a little bit impromptu the last minute. So next Thursday, hopefully, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming. And
Thursday
we'll have
5:30 is though guaranteed.
Yes, Thursday 5:30 is guaranteed. And we'll hopefully have a new guest on for next week. And hopefully, before long, we'll be back in bars and chopping it up with our favorite entrepreneurs. So thank you guys for
toast. Did you?
What's that?
You didn't have a toast, did you?
Oh no, I didn't have a toast actually. We'll bring the toast back next week as well. It's been a little bit of a weird week, but thank you guys again so much. If you could give us a thumbs up just to show us a little bit of additional support, certainly would appreciate that. And guys, as always, remember, if you don't drink Jack,
you're an ass.
Take it easy.